All right, so now we're going to talk about Star Trek. It's the first time we talked about Star Trek together, so this will be exciting. So there's been a lot of stuff happening with Star Trek movies. So Paramount, like they hired a new head of the studio or the Paramount Group, whatever they want to call it. Her name's Emma Watts, not Hermione.
No, it's not Hermione. We would love it if it was. We're talking about women too, but
so yeah, it would be funny if it was. So there was some articles came out recently. So basically, she was saying, "Oh, we need to figure out what to do with the Star Trek movies." Yeah.
Stop complicating it, first of all.
Yeah. So one of the newest ideas that had come out was this guy Noah Hawley. So he was a writer for the TV show Fargo on FX. He was a writer for the TV show Legion, which is also on FX. And he was commissioned to write a script and direct a film. But the turnover seems to have kind of put that on pause. So did you have any feelings about the potential of like a Noah Hawley helmed film?
I was more excited about Noah Hawley than I was Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
And that's me saying I love Quentin Tarantino's movies. I think there's only 2 I haven't seen, and they're his more recent films. And I couldn't understand mostly because I couldn't understand like what he wanted to do with it. First, it was Yesterday's Enterprise. Then he said something about a gangster-themed Star Trek movie, which is fine. They've done that before with the holodeck and stuff like that, or just going to other worlds that have a 1930s theme to it. I kind of just feel like he was stonewalling them, honestly, because he said it once in a podcast and then it kind of grew out of control. That's just me speculating. Not that it probably wouldn't be any good. But that's one of the reasons why I really liked the Orville, is because it's kind of moving away from the darkness and we're getting a little bit more light.
Yeah.
Even if the Orville has its dark moments and silliness, it's a little more lighthearted. But I was more excited about the Noah Hawley one just because I really enjoy his dialogue, and I think he's a really good writer, and I liked, this might sound bad, but I only watched the first season of Legion and the first season of Fargo, but I enjoyed both of them because they're very different from one another. But they have he brings that quirky, weird character dialogue that I think would work really well in a Star Trek film, because it would be very different, and I don't mind people doing different things with Star Trek, which is why some people hate me, I guess. Because if I would like to take my shot at Star Trek, I think everybody should have their opportunity to do that in whatever weird way they want. But yeah, I'd like a Noah Hawley thing. That'd be good. Wouldn't mind.
Yeah, Legion's an interesting show. It reminds me a bit of what was that, like Twin Peaks kind of stuff?
Yeah, I really liked the first season. I've always meant to go back and finish watching it. I really have no excuse not to. It's just getting further down the list. But yeah, I loved that I just loved how weird it was. It was the most unsuperhero weird thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it really stretched the genre. Like if you could have Marvel films and Legion in the same genre, like you're going somewhere. Yeah. So then there was also another idea that was floated. So they wanted to have a film where the Kelvin James Kirk meets his dad, George Kirk, so it'd be Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth. They wanted to do like a time travel film. And basically Paramount wanted both of them to take a pay cut, and they were like, screw you.
Yeah.
That was kind of the end of that. So what do you think of that story idea? The Chris team-up movie.
I mean, not that I wouldn't love to see them both on camera together. I think it'd be fun, but like, I don't know why they keep trying to overcomplicate Star Trek. It's not that complicated of a franchise that people keep. I don't think I would have liked it personally, but I also adamantly said I would never watch Star Trek Beyond, and I loved Beyond. So I'm willing to be wrong. Again, I just don't. It seems like they'd be overcomplicating it, and you already have a split universe, and now you're going to add time travel into the mix. It seems like it would have been a little much, personally.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Star Trek not one to stay away from time travel.
No, but that's kind of why people are kind of grown about it now, though, is because like, they always kind of, well, we'll just use time travel. We'll just use that. We'll just, you know, slingshot around the sun a few more times.
Yeah, it's like in case of plot problem, break time travel box.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just crack that open, and it's just like that really good card in Cards Against Humanity or whatever that you keep playing over and over and over again.
Oh yeah, the Hitler card always wins.
Yeah, just to win. And then after a while, everyone's kind of like, "You're really going to use that card again? Nobody else has had a turn, basically."
Yeah.
And I love time travel. I love it, but
it is
some originality in there as well.
It's like, it's very hard to thread, because when it works, like Terminator 2, that stuff, it's great. Endgame, they went there. It's kind of like, it can solve any problem, right? And so, but that creates its own problem because now the stakes are lower. And so it's kind of hard to keep the stakes, but also fix the problems or whatever.
Yeah, so you have to add like for the DeLorean, you know, you needed plutonium, otherwise it's going to break down and not work. And when it stops working, we have to figure out a new way to go back to 1984 or whenever year it was. So you can't have a perfect time machine, basically. There has to be a flaw because you need someone to be trapped, you need someone to make a sacrifice. And now I'm just describing Endgame because I feel like they did it right.
Yeah,
it wasn't perfect. It was completely unstable.
Yeah, I think Endgame definitely, they hit on some. Well, I feel like Endgame, it's a little hit and miss. I think I think they did a few things well with the time travel. It was a bit predictable, where it's like, well, they're gonna go back in time and get the stones and fix everything, and then have a final battle. What I really liked about the way they did it in Endgame was like they messed up the timeline. Like when they go to 2012 and then Loki steals the space stone.
They completely screw that up.
Yeah, that was good. That was like a really smart choice for them to make, because for a number of reasons. Number one, it now you can get Loki back, and people like Loki, so it saved your character who you killed. But also, again, that kind of, you know, that was like a big deal in Infinity War. Like the thing opens and it's just like murder, 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 blow up your planet, blow up this, and it's like, oh, by the way, none of that happened anymore. So we got rid of Heimdall because we don't want that actor anymore, but the actor we do want, we're going to bring him back. So, you know, again, it's like, how can we have stakes and keep it? But yeah, I like that they screwed up the timeline, and so then they had to go back even further, which was an excuse for us to get this character moment between the two Starks, the dad and the son.
Exactly.
So that's cool stuff. And yeah, you can have time travel where that works, but you can also have time travel where you know, I don't know, it just feels stupid or whatever. You just don't like it. Yeah. So a lot's been talked about, like this Quentin Tarantino film. Like there's a lot of fun quotes. Like I was reading this one. So when asked if Star Trek would be heavy in expletives, Tarantino said, "Oh yeah, it's going to be an R-rated movie. If I do it, it'll be R-rated." And Carl Urban said, "I know a little bit about it, and it's bananas." But he did say, like, you shouldn't worry that it is going to be full of obscenity and stuff. So he was saying this at like it was like a Star Trek convention. And so Tarantino wants an R rating to really make those beasts of consequence land. And he was saying, like, for an example, like if we see the ship get hit and some people get sucked down into space, you might see them get disemboweled first. So that's like what the difference would be. And then the last thing he said was, you know, it would be a dream come true to work with Tarantino on a film. He's definitely an auteur. Whether you like his films or not, he's a good filmmaker and he makes interesting stuff. So to me, that is when you get the best results. So, yeah. So what do you think about his, I guess, the things he has to say about the potential Quentin Tarantino film?
Well, it would definitely be gory. I mean, it would definitely show like the ramifications if you get slammed into a bulkhead and you're gonna probably explode if you're going like that. Like we just see people get like, ooh, oh, they're out into space and they freeze and all that other stuff happens to them.
Yeah.
I think it would probably show the violence of something of things a little bit more. Because whenever we do see a shot like that, generally it's from far away, so you can see the scope of how small we are compared to like how big the ship is, and then the vastness of space, and you're just one tiny little piece of biomatter that's just getting flung out there, basically. So I think he would probably show the terror and the violence of space a little bit more. I'm still on the fence about it, though.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I was an actor, working with Quentin Tarantino would be a dream come true as well.
Yeah.
But I'm just a consumer, so.
Yeah. So Simon Pegg, this is what he had to say about the Quentin Tarantino film. And he said, everyone sort of assumes it's going to be like Pulp Fiction in space, but I think his devotion to Trek and his understanding of it, it won't be ordinary. It'll have him all over it, but it won't be anything a Star Trek fan will have to worry about. He has an acute understanding of the story, and he'd never do anything to tear it down. So I feel like Simon Pegg is always like, he's always trying to like, he's like the PR guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think it's just because he is a genuine fan too. I mean, he's been through this of taking a script, like, because from what I understand, Beyond was a mess to get through. Like, it went through various different people writing it, rewriting it. Somebody got fired. So I think he knows what it's like to go through the ringer with something like this and have the expectations of not only fans but what a studio wants as well. So I think he tries to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, especially if they're also a writer, because he's an actor as well as a writer. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it just seems like he's always like, oh, hey fans, we're gonna try and do you justice, because I'm a fan too and I understand how you feel.
Exactly. You don't want to let anybody down, especially when you're part of that fandom. Just because he's a celebrity doesn't mean he's not a fan of what he's doing and creating.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I suspect that the Quentin Tarantino thing will happen at some point in the future. I don't know. I don't think it'll be the next thing, but I think it'll happen at some point in the future.
And you know what? I will watch it. That's the thing. I will. I've been trying much harder in my old age to not prejudge things as harshly as I have in the past, because I did it with Beyond, and that was a huge learning experience. So I'm trying very hard to just keep an open mind, and because even if it's bad, I'll watch it. I don't care. Like, I have mixed feelings about Into Darkness, and I still watch that. I'm like, yeah, it's a good action movie. And that's another thing, is that if it's not an action movie, I will enjoy it even more. Because that's something that I will say about Quentin Tarantino, is that I don't think he'll make it an action movie. He won't,
yeah, for sure. It'll be like maybe more bloody and gory and more, I don't know, there'll be some fun, crazy dialogue. The dialogue part will probably be the most fun thing about it.
Oh yeah, because he's a master wordsmith, and he can get actors to deliver lines that are just iconic in so many different ways. That's why we remember Pulp Fiction, because it's a good movie, but there's like
there's so many.
Like, all the dialogue between John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson is just so on point, and it feels natural, and he's able to pull performances that make the dialogue real, like they're having a real conversation.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. We're probably a ways off from getting another film.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so now we're going to transition into talking about what if Emma Watts says, okay, PharaohHazard, you are now in charge of making the next movie,
and we have an endless supply of money.
Yeah, $500 million. So yeah, so what would you do with Star Trek if you could?
Like, are we just doing the cast right now, or
Sure, yeah.
story?
If you want to do story, if you want to do cast,
Okay.
I have both, but like, you know, you can just do a cast if you want.
Okay, I'll start with the cast, and I'll move on to what I think Star Trek Picard should have been. This is just the original TOS cast, and this was incredible. This is very hard for me to do. So for Kirk, I wrote either Chris Pratt or Ryan Reynolds. And Ryan Reynolds, I know, is a little bit out of the box. He does not look like William Shatner, but I'm fine with that. I think we need to stop casting based on looks and start casting based on acting ability. I think Chris Pratt would bring the sarcastic swagger that Kirk naturally has, but I feel like Ryan Reynolds would be able to have that as well as better leadership. Yeah, those are just the two that popped out of me. If I had to cast Kirk and I had like 2 phone calls that I could only make, it would probably be those two, one of those two.
Cool. Yeah.
Do you want to
go ahead.
Okay. I wasn't sure if we were going to
go back. You can give your whole crew.
Okay.
And your whole thing, and then I'll like give my whole crew list. And my idea.
Okay. Spock, and he's a little older, but that's fine because I would like to see an older TOS cast if they were going to do another film. Josh Hartnett. I think Josh Hartnett would be a great Spock. I think he has the acting chops more now than he would have in his earlier career. I think he's become a much better actor. I love him in Penny Dreadful, and he's got such a good edge in that show that I think he could really bring a conflict of his humanity and his Vulcan side really close together. We have to cast an older actor as McCoy because he is the oldest character in the show. Josh Brolin as McCoy.
Oh yeah, I like that.
I really like that. He can be clean cut but have that grizzled. I think McCoy is supposed to be from Georgia, I'm pretty sure. But don't quote me on that. But he can give that little kind of, that aged wisdom. He's the heart of the 3 of them. I couldn't recast Sulu. I love John Cho as Sulu. I really, really do. When he sits in that chair in Star Trek Beyond, I'm like, that's my Sulu.
Yeah.
I love when Sulu is in command in any capacity because I would watch a Sulu spinoff if it was John Cho. I'm not gonna lie. I've always been a big fan of Sulu.
Yeah, he's in command in Into Darkness too.
Yeah,
there's a really fun moment.
That is true. Chekhov, it's an either Timothy Chalamet or Tom Holland. Because that's why they wrote Chekhov in, was because they wanted to bring in a younger audience. So I would like to still see like that younger boy genius kind of a thing. So one of those two actors I think would be good.
Yeah. If you cast Timothy Chalamet, I mean you're getting a like he has his own like cult almost. Like I wouldn't call it that, but like it's a strong fandom. Let's put it that way.
When the first picture of Paul Atreides from Dune came out, I was like, I thought this was like his first thing. People know who he is. Like,
yeah,
I had no idea. Uhura, I would want again an older, established actor. So I chose Kerry Washington. I think she can bring some real badass appeal to the character. And then this is actually my wild card. Scotty would be Seth MacFarlane.
That's great.
I already know he can do the accent, and I already know he would be so good. I would love to see Seth MacFarlane as Scotty. I really do.
Cool. Yeah, I like that.
Those are my main cast members. I don't think I'm forgetting anyone. I would also want to probably include Nurse Chapel in some way because I loved her dynamic with Spock. I'm still convinced he was always kind of in love with her, but that's just me. But yeah, that is my TOS original cast.
Cool.
If I had, if I could only call them, that's who that would be.
Yeah. Nice. Did you have any idea for like what you'd want to see happen plot wise with this cast? If not, that's fine.
Not necessarily. I I do like the idea of doing something with the City on the Edge of Forever, revisiting that in some capacity. But again, that's also time travel. But it's more of trying to discover what the beacon really was. You know, it's been sitting there. The thing that finally transports them has been sitting there waiting for someone to ask it a question for like thousands of years. And it would be interesting, at least for me, to find out a little bit more about that and like who made it, why did they make it, have they had any impact on historical events, whether it be on Earth or off world. I feel like revisiting it would be a little interesting. Maybe something happens to the ship or something happens on Earth and they need to go back and they're like, well, remember that planet that we said we would never go back to?
We're going back.
We got to go back. And I think it'd be and it's such a classic, iconic episode too. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, nice. Yeah, I like that. I like that cast. That's fun.
Yeah, I did have fun doing it, but I was like, this is so much pressure. Who can I?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, I kind of leaned into that. Okay, so for my cast, what I would have, so the head nurse would be Dev Patel. The navigator would be Asya Kate Dillon. I don't know if you know about this actor.
I don't.
Yeah, so she's like a non-binary person, so she doesn't like identify as either gender. She was in, I think it was.
Oh, was she in Billions? Or sorry, they were in Billions.
Yes, in Billions, and also like one of the John Wick movies.
Yep, I actually really like them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this actor would be perfect for a Star Trek film. Just yeah.
First to buy that shit up.
Yeah. So for the helmsman would be, there's this actor Christina Rodlow, and so she's a like Hispanic actress. She's kind of, probably like a lot of people don't know her yet, but she's been in some stuff. She was in a TV show I really liked called Too Old to Die Young, and she's like a really badass, like she calls herself like the Queen of Death or something like that in the show, and she would just be like a really cool, like I think that she's someone, like if you put her in a big thing, she would blow up. She could really like become a big, well-known actor. So for me, the communications officer would be Mia Wasikowska, who was in, people know her from like the Disney adaptation of
Alice in Wonderland.
I know
her from Jane Eyre, but
yeah, she's a great she's a great actress. She actually like I think that if people saw the things she did outside of like the big stuff, they'd have a different opinion of her. It's like she's a really cool actress.
She's a really good indie actress when she can just be in a serious like film. She's very, very good. Yeah.
I really like her, and I just felt like she belongs in this. The chief engineer I would choose would be Lakeith Stanfield. One of my favorite actors right now. Like he's just been in a bunch of really good projects, and he's never really given a bad performance, I think. So the chief medical officer, I would have Michael Pena. So I think this would be kind of fun. Like he can do the comedy, but he can also be kind of serious, and he's just like a fun actor. He's just really fun. So that would be like, we would get some comic relief from him.
Yeah.
So the first officer would be, I would choose Donald Glover.
Yes, that'd be good.
I think he would be great in a Star Trek movie, actually.
I think he would,
yeah, just in any capacity. But yeah, I think as like someone high up would be really fun, so we could see his character a lot. And the captain of my ship I would choose would be Awkwafina. She would be the captain. So.
Oh, sorry, I don't know.
Yeah, so she's an Asian American actress. She was in, let me think. I don't know if you've seen it. There was like a Jumanji sequel to like the reboot. She was in that. Yeah, she was in this movie, The Farewell. Yeah, but so she's just like a really big Asian American actress, pretty much. The simplest way I would put it. So yeah, so that would be my crew. The villain of this film would be another Starfleet officer who would be played by Christian Bale. And yeah, and his first officer would be played by Ryan Gosling, so they would be like the villains of the film. And I would have Doug Jones would play a character who'd be like an alien in this movie. And so the idea I had for like the story would be like, so the villain Christian Bale and his crew, they start habitually breaking the Prime Directive. And so something happened in his past where he feels like this is just totally wrong, and he convinces his crew that he's right, and they just go around just like basically breaking the Prime Directive a bunch of times. And now it's starting to, you know, the Starfleet's trying to figure out what to do about it. Like, are they gonna arrest the guy? Are they going to confront him? But they're also having to deal with the fact that, you know, all these new civilizations are coming into they're coming in, and it's not all negative, right? And so there's a lot of good that has come of it, but there is some conflict that has come of it. And so they're having to think about how to confront this guy, and then in the end, you know, our crew will confront his crew, and they'll, like, you know, a lot of it'll just be, the whole film will tackle this philosophical argument of, is it right or wrong to do this thing? And here's both sides of the argument. And in the end, you know, something will happen.
I think you need to put you need to copyright this idea. I think you need to seriously consider that this is a very good idea. This is very good. I really like this idea because the Prime Directive is constantly being broken for one reason or another, and it's constantly putting captains at odds with admirals, with Starfleet, with the Federation. It's not just Earth that is implicated in it. We have hundreds of other species that are also going to be implicated into it as well. Because like you said, it's not always is it a bad thing? You know, shouldn't we involve ourselves if something terrible is going to happen to a planet because they haven't developed warp drive? Will they ever develop warp drive? I like that. I think that's a very, very good idea. Or would it be like a series, or would it be like, did you say it was going to be a movie?
This would be for a film. Yeah, this would be. It could be either way, right?
I really like it. No, because that could be an ongoing thing. Because you could set, if let's say for example it was a show, you could set that's the whole first season is the setup, and then following that is the ramifications of it. Are we opening our doors to that is so. There's
so much, right?
There's so much that bleeds into real life. Are we opening our doors to the right people? You know, so often it's just like, are they the right people we want here? You know, when the Federation is, if you want to compare it to the United States, it's the dream is to be a part of something greater than yourself. You just kind of blew my mind a little bit. That is great. No, it really is. That's fantastic. I love that idea. It brings up the moral quandaries. It brings up conflict, right or wrong, because your Christian Bale character would be a villain. But a villain is great when they don't think they are.
Yeah, especially when I was thinking like in his backstory, something like we would get into something happened where he saw a planet. So the thing that came to my mind was like seeing a civilization that's like they're humanoid, and imagine like seeing one race like enslaving another race or like putting them in concentration camps, and then like the Starfleet shows up and they kind of stop them and they save these people who are being persecuted. And what that would make us feel about what the person did, like we would be in favor of it. And that would be like his motivation. So like maybe in the past he saw civilizations in his travels as being a captain. He saw civilizations destroy themselves and harm themselves, and for no reason that basically it wasn't their fault that they couldn't get to, you know, like achieving warp. Like it's just there are these things that happen, and if someone intervened and helped them, they would get to a better place. They would actually be doing more good by intervening than not.
Exactly. If someone had just given them an opportunity, if someone had just extended the hand, because as soon as you start realizing you're relating to the villain, there's that pull of sympathy that, like, I feel like a villain has been written well when I feel that, oh, I kind of feel a little bit bad for you.
Yeah.
But you're so bad, you know, like, yeah. I like that about them, because he's trying to do the right thing. Wow.
Yeah, he's doing the thing he thinks is right. And he thinks that they're wrong. I mean, you know, this happens all the time, and when there are these big, you know, bureaucratic or organizations where there's conflict, and people think like, oh no, they don't know what the right thing to do, and they're stuck in their bureaucracy. That's why they can't do the right thing. So I'm just going to do it proactively myself. The results be damned, and they're going to be too busy writing me up to stop me.
So he's Batman. Yeah, it's kind of like that vigilante thing. That's why Batman.
Yeah, it is vigilante.
Like, nobody else is doing it. I'm just going to do it myself. But that's the thing. But what I also like about that some of my favorite episodes are centered around villains in Star Trek that are a part of Starfleet. Sometimes the institutions that are there to help you don't actually have your best interests at heart, or what they believe is the best interest, can have a really strong negative, like, impact. The episode Offspring, when Data makes a child because he wants to experience fatherhood, Starfleet comes in, guns blazing, being like, you actually can't, and we're going to take her because she's the property of Starfleet.
Oh my God.
It's one of my favorite episodes. And, you know, Picard is reading Data the riot act, being like, Data, you can't just make a life form. And Data says, well, do you consult every member of the crew when they decide to procreate? And Picard's just kind of like, oh.
No.
I don't, actually. That'd be pretty tyrannical if I did, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Sometimes Starfleet's the enemy, and it's...
Yep.
You don't want it to be, but that's so true of real life.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a good thing to, you know, I think that they need to explore, like, you know, like what I would call like the Star Trek villain. Someone that's not, they're not like muhaha evil and like trying to blow up the universe, but they're just like, they have a different set of opinions, or there's a philosophical conflict. I feel like that's more like true to Star Trek than like, oh, this guy, you know, we're going to do this red herring where there's this white guy. Is he Khan? Is he not? I don't know.
I was just going to say, it would have been a better movie if he hadn't been Khan, in my opinion. I don't, like, first of all, the race thing is completely inappropriate. It's so wrong. Benedict Cumberbatch is great in that movie. He can't act poorly, but he is not. But he is so white. It's not. Like,
that's so true.
At least Ricardo Montalban was a man of color. I get that it's still not okay that he's playing an Indian character.
Yeah.
But at least they cast a man of color, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And if he had just been John Harrison, this guy who had finally just snapped and wasn't happy with Starfleet, I feel like it would have been a little bit more interesting and not as laughed at today. Even though I can enjoy the movie, but...
Or even if he was a guy from the eugenics war, but he was like a British guy, like,
it didn't have to be Khan. Like,
yeah.
That wasn't my Khan. Hashtag not my Khan.
Not my Khan. Yeah. I mean, so, and that's kind of the problem is like they're like, I think you even said it in a video. They're trying to Star Wars Star Trek, and that doesn't work. That doesn't work. It's not what it is.
Stop. I made a whole video like 3 years ago about how I don't like J.J. Abrams. Everybody else loves him, and that's fine. I think, but he only did Star Trek to do Star Wars. It was like it was like he needed one more thing on his resume.
Shooting off point, He
was already the brainchild of so many great directors. Why did you have to? As soon as I saw R2-D2 in Star Trek, I was like,
There's I feel like what JJ things start well and then they quickly go the other way. Like,
it's because I don't think anyone wants to tell him no. Maybe you shouldn't do this. And the thing is, it's not that I don't appreciate what he did for Star Trek. He gave a whole everyone who is 18 or 19, like I was when Star Trek 2009 came out, is now an avid fan.
Yeah.
Or, you know, the ones who wanted to see it, who saw it and had never seen TOS before. So I appreciate that he gave it its footing back, that he brought it back to mainstream. But I don't like what he did to it. I don't.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, his idea was to like to Star Wars-ize the Star Trek, and like it just petered away from like what people really care about Star Trek for. It's not like giant space battles and freaking, I mean, although some of this stuff is cool, like it was fun, like in Star Trek.
It's definitely cool. It's definitely fun. It's great to look at, the special effects, everything. Like, but it's not Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, I love the scene where in 09 when they do that space dive, and then they land on the thing, and then like Sulu's got the sword and he's fighting. Like that stuff is fun.
It is fun. It is fun.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard sometimes, because I'm like, I like them, but I resent it a little bit. Like I resent it just a little bit. And
I think I think stuff like that is fine. I think like doing the like Sulu and Kirk or whatever fighting, because like, you know, I mean, have they ever really gotten into the fact that Sulu is like a swordsman?
They did
before?
once.
They did one, yeah.
They did once in TOS, but he had his shirt off and he was going crazy.
Yeah, he's like, oh yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I'll protect you, you're her, or whatever. And she's like, no, thank you. It's pretty great.
Yeah, yeah. So that's cool. I mean, I think that's cool, but like Into Darkness goes like 2 and 11, and it's too much.
It really is too much. And again, this has nothing to do with performance. It has nothing to do with acting, or I mean, it does have a little bit to do with casting.
Yeah.
And they ruined Carol Marcus. Like, she was just like Carol Marcus is such a great character in The Wrath of Khan, and she's such an important part of Kurt's past.
Yeah.
I just get so mad when I think about him. Like,
I know. And he's just like, ooh, wouldn't it be fun if I did this to this character, this important character, just totally change them?
And I'm pretty sure actually in TOS they vaguely reference a Carol Marcus type character, but they don't ever actually say her by name. And in Wrath of Khan, they expanded on this one woman that Kirk almost left Starfleet for, because he knocked her up.
And he chose Starfleet over the family.
Yeah, he did. And that's a really important part of Kirk's character arc as a whole, it's not just this throwaway, oh yeah, I got a girl pregnant and I took off or whatever. Like, no, like you got a girl pregnant and it's affected David's life, his son's life, and he finally has a chance to have a relationship with his son, and it's the events of Search for Spock greatly affect how Kirk is for the rest of his life. And J.J. Abrams took all of that away and made me hate Kirk. I hate Kirk in those movies. He ruined James Tiberius Kirk.
Yeah.
He gave him everything. He never had to work hard for anything in those movies. And I'm actually shaking a little bit. I'm kind of embarrassed. This is so bad that I'm getting this heated over it. I'm sorry.
I know. I mean, I feel you. I understand. Like they're definitely, you know, like when you really just like live and breathe something, and then you just see like them flippantly totally screw it up, you're like, okay, I am enraged. There was definitely a part of me, so like, you know, to get the Star Wars example, like, you know, that's been kind of beaten to death, but like, you know, when they some of the stuff that happens in The Last Jedi is kind of like, okay, I don't know if I can I don't know if I'm down with this anymore.
Yeah, I didn't like that movie. I didn't like it.
I've come to sort of forgive some of the things that happened, but there are just some things you're just like, oh, okay, they really did that to this character that I loved, and now there's no going back. Like that's permanent. Yeah. That change is permanent, and now it stained my feeling. So yeah.
Sorry, I am listening. I just had to text.
Yeah. No, it's all good.
Yeah, sometimes there's things that are just like, you know what, you hurt me too much this one time.
Yeah. Well, okay, so those were our ideas for what they should do with Star Trek 4. People, let us know what they think of our ideas, and maybe, what your fan casting would be for the next Star Trek movie or whatever.
I love when people do their like mass Tumblr fan cast posts, because sometimes they really blow my mind, and I'm like, I never would have thought of that, and then you can only picture that.
Yeah.
I really enjoy fan casting. Sometimes it's a little like, no.
Yeah, it's a little cringy or weird or whatever.
It's a little cringy when you only cast One Direction people. I like One Direction, by the way. I like some of their songs, but like I've seen some mass Tumblr posters like, and Kirk would be this person. I can't remember, Zayn. I think that's
yeah.
And I'm like, and this person and that person. I'm like, they're just One Direction.
Yeah, I mean,
gonna be like one of them too. Come on.
Well, maybe Uhura is them, right? It's like they want to be Uhura in this scenario, and then One Direction is just the surrounding crew.
There's an episode of Star Trek the Animated Series where Uhura actually has to take command of the ship because all the dudes are falling in love with these alien babes.
Oh,
and
God.
Scotty's just love drunk, so she shoves him in the brig or something, and she's like, okay, I guess I'm the only adult on the ship.
I'm in charge now, Fun stuff.
Oh, yeah.
All right, cool. So that was our episode. That was a lot of fun. I guess now I have to write this fan fiction of of my Star Trek: The Prime Directive thing.
Write the script. Have your title right there, The Prime Directive. Like,
yeah, maybe. I think that the ideal title would be. I'd have to do more research, but I'm sure there's like. Do they ever like put people on trial? Is there a trial procedure?
I want to say that
Starfleet?
There is probably some episodes surrounding that.
Yeah.
I can't think of any off the top of my head, unfortunately. But there's plenty of episodes that touch on it and go into it. There's actually a really great episode, I forget the name of it, where Picard is seen as a god by really primitive, I believe, Romulans. And he has to deal with the ramifications of that. And I don't think he gets put on trial, but basically Starfleet tells him he has to fix it.
Yeah.
Like, you made this mess, clean it up.
Yeah, he has to undo. Because I feel like that's why I would want the story to end, is like they finally capture them and then the guy surrenders. And then he's put on trial, and then that's where the philosophical stuff would come into play.
Yeah, and how would that affect society? Because know, if it was today, that would be a split war. Twitter would be going crazy over stuff like that. Like, everyone would be weighing in their opinions. And maybe even some members of, like, your good crew would start feeling the way he feels, too, which would add more conflict and more fuel to the fire. Yeah,
maybe they would agree with him, right?
Exactly, because it's kind of hard not to when all he wants to do is save lives.
Yeah, exactly. And then like we would be able to bring in like the new races that were brought into this by him, and like they'd be like, hey, so that saved our lives. Like our society was crumbling, and
are you
then
better off?
Yeah, and so I'm sure there's some term in Starfleet for like when a captain goes rogue and they have to like arrest him, like what the name of that directive is. That's what the name of the title should be, I think. Star Trek, this person broke this law thing or something.
Category 5, Section B.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, thanks a lot, everyone. This has been a lot of fun. And see you next time.